back to Breaking Black Podcast. You are here with your host, Tina G, and my lovely co-host, Janine Hartmann. Today, we're going to be getting into a juicy topic. We're going to be talking about the pressures that society has on women and settling down, getting married, or having children. Now, I know we talked about this subject. As we know, it's sort of a misconception that all women want to get married and that all women aspire to be mothers and have a family. And so I think this is an interesting topic for us to talk about because we can definitely kind of explore the different sides of that conversation. How do you feel? I know, working in entertainment, working as actresses in entertainment, a lot of times we dedicate a lot of our time to our careers and exploring different things in our industry. And sometimes that takes the precedent over relationships and possibly for some folks, even having children. What's your take? How do you feel about it?
Honestly, I just feel like that should just be on the woman to decide when and where she wants to have this kid in her life. As we know, kids are not cheap at all, especially depending on what state or what country you live in. It's a lot to take care of a beautiful, healthy child. Okay, I would love to be a mother, but I don't know when, but I just want to make sure that I give 100% to myself, to my dreams, to my goals. I think that's very important for anyone to have your identity, to make sure like who you are before entering a relationship. And that honestly goes for both partners. You should really know who you are before you go into the relationship. And when it comes to women and in this industry, they do judge. It can be judged, especially like, depending on what role you want to take. If you are expecting at the time, like, can you fulfill those roles? Because you have to be a bikini in the movie. And if you're like 6 months pregnant, that does affect it. And on top of that, after birth, you have to heal. You have to get your mind right. You got to find a kid. You got to make sure that you are secure, especially after just that trauma when it comes to giving birth. So when it comes to giving birth, I just feel like women should not be rushed. And I know with society, they always say like the same time clock, when my friend got pregnant in her 30s, like she was over 35, they kept calling it a geriatric pregnancy. And she hated that. I hated that term. I was just like offended for her. I was like, a geriatric pregnancy. It's a pregnancy whenever she took her time to get pregnant because she got the finances now. She's emotionally mature to have a child. And on top of that, when you're older, you know your body, you know what you can do. Now, yes, of course, there's going to be some surprises with pregnancy, but I just hate when they rush women, especially career women. It's more so like, I don't know for you, T, did it feel like, I don't know if you've ever been rushed into it, but I feel like they always come for people or women who are career driven, like something that's typical of a man. But no men get any, when are you going to settle down and have a family? They definitely say it's a lot of females, but when are you going to have a kid? When are you going to settle down? When are you going to do that? That's the one thing I hate, that double standard, but that rush it defers getting into your dreams. Like, I don't know, has that ever happened to you too? Like, were you ever like rushed, or you saw a family member get like rushed into pregnancy and then maybe, I don't know, it didn't turn out well, or it did turn out well for them?
I never felt the pressure of like having children, and I don't know that I've ever really seen that pressure in my family, but I definitely have identified with the pressure of getting married. I actually want to be married, and I've always desired to be married. So I'm not one of the women who would say, that I feel this great pressure to be married and it's not something that I'm interested in doing. It is something I'm interested in doing, and I always have wanted to get married. But I think that finding the relationship that makes you want to solidify it with marriage is very challenging for some people. And for me, I always looked at marriage as like sort of a lifelong commitment, and I never wanted to go into it, with the wrong person. So I was very careful and very cautious about like not, I think I've had the opportunity in a sense of like talking about getting married and even broaching the subject within, my past relationships. But I feel like for me, I have to know like this is that partner that I'm going to be sitting in that rocking chair with. And if I don't feel that we're connected, spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally, like it's just not a space that I would really consider. And so I feel like in my family, a lot of the women have gotten married and gotten married young. And it's like, I do kind of feel the pressure of being that like the one who hasn't. I've also seen divorce, right? And separation, time after time after time, even amongst like my peer group, my friends. So I just never wanted to like go into it with the wrong person or with any level of regret or unsurety. And I've just kind of just been taking my time with like really making sure that when I get to that space, that it's something that I want to do. So I do kind of identify what it's like, just as a woman, for people to one, not understand why I'm not married, but also like suggest that there has to be something like wrong with me because I'm not. Just the notion of that is kind of, I don't know, it's a little weird to me. It's like it has more to do with like my moral compass, my value system, and like really wanting to align with somebody than like just not being the right candidate for marriage. You know what I'm saying? So what about you? Like, have you felt the pressures of, getting married or having children? I know that you come from a South American family. Culturally, have you ever felt kind of like that pressure with like them having that expectancy?
Well, no, my Guyanese family, I will say, I guess it's also how my parents and my family grew up. A lot of people in our family did die from childbirth, or they suffered a lot of heavy complications. I wasn't raised with the idea you got to get married, you got to have, like, you got to marriage and kids and this and whatnot. No, it was always education. Education. Whatever you want to do with the education, have it. But I will say, I have been getting pressured recently, and I think it's because all of like the people around my age is having kids and getting married, and they're like, "Oh, I wanted our kids to play with each other." I was like, "Girl, your kids could babysit my kids. They play like that. They could work. They could pick them up while they go into college and stuff. That's fine. Play together." And I don't know, like that's just not fun for me. For me, but like I said, I think it's because I haven't found that right person yet for me to do that. It's like, look at Sierra and Russell. Like, she clearly, we see she found her forever person because she's just popping out babies. They just having fun. They have the finances to do it. They feel like they're emotionally mature for that. They've had conversations about that. So, yeah. But for right now, yeah, I have been, man, listen, I'm at the point where they're just like, I've been heard questions like, she's not married. And it's to the point where like some of our family is like, you don't have to have married. You have a kid. Now they just want a kid. They just want to see an heir. And I think in this time, I will say, typically, sometimes it's because, you're a woman. But I will say I'm noticing the shift from you're a woman and you're supposed to have kids too. We would like to see, like, hang out with your children because a lot of us are growing up or we're having families and we want to build, like, they want to have their kids play with my kids. So I'm seeing that more, So it's, I will say I've noticed that in a shift with, like, a lot of my loved ones. They just want for me to have like an heir where my heir and their heir could like hang out. And then we have a lot of older people in the generation, like a lot of my family, like they live to like their hundreds. So it's very typical. I think my grandmother was like one of the oldest, like my great grandmother, like one of the oldest in Guyana. Like She's like either 112 or 108, somewhere in that number, somewhere in that field, the triple digits. Being like I'm the last sibling. Like I know how you mentioned like you're the last one in your family, like within the group to be married. I am the last sibling. I don't have a spouse. I don't have any kids, but I'm the best auntie. I will hook it up with the gift, aka Santa Claus. So,
rich auntie vibes.
Hey, exactly. Exactly. And kids are no joke. And I do have some cousins, I do have some friends who don't want kids at all. So like I don't know if you ever like had a conversation with somebody who doesn't have any kids, like how are they feeling like as they get older?
Definitely. I actually do. There's quite a few women that I know that like don't have an interest in having kids. And they say all the time that like they enjoy the idea of like, having like rich auntie vibes. Like they just, hang out with their friends' kids or do whatever. And then, they don't have that responsibility. So I don't find that to be that much of a unique position. I mean, we live in a society today where having children, having a family is incredibly expensive and it's very time consuming. So you have to be the kind of person that really wants to be selfless and thinks about like what it would be like to sort of put yourself aside in some ways and focus on your children and the overall family dynamic because as much as we love our families, I don't necessarily know that their expectations are always our individual expectations, if you get what I mean. So I think it definitely takes a level of dedication, commitment, and selflessness to be in that space. And not everybody wants to give up their individual freedom, to do that. And even in terms of getting married, I mean, I am a fan of marriage and the traditional, marriage lifestyle, family lifestyle, but there's lots of people that, maybe that's not their ideal. Maybe they don't want to have, one partner that they're committed to for life, or maybe they don't see themselves being with one partner at all. You know what I'm saying? And so not everybody has sort of like this trajectory of getting married and having children. And then I also think like in the current culture that we have with social media and just like online dating and sliding in the DMs and like all these different things, marriage also, unfortunately, is not lasting as long as it once, did. And we even see that in our celebrity culture with, couples getting married and getting divorced, very quickly, getting divorced multiple times. We just seen this happen with Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez, who got married for a second time. And I think they only stayed married, 2 years, I believe it is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's definitely something to consider. And like, speaking of, celebrity, I know we had a deeper discussion about, this particular topic and looking at a whole host of people, who are in entertainment from, beautiful women like Sanaa Lathan, Yvonne Orji, Tracee Ellis Ross, Tiffany Haddish. There's a mix of people that either don't have children, or have, not gotten married yet. With Yvonne Orji and Tiffany Haddish and Sanaa Lathan and Tracee Ellis Ross, they don't have any children. Beautiful, talented, all of them, extremely capable women who, don't have any children currently. And then even looking at, actresses like Jennifer Aniston, who's been in a long-term relationship, but, didn't have any children, again with Megan Good. Long-term marriage, but didn't have any children. And then you brought up recently, we were having a discussion and you brought up Michelle Yu, which we both love. She doesn't have any children either. And so I'd like to know your thoughts with, looking at kind of like the, I guess, celebrities and influencers and, even people in the industry they don't have those financial restrictions. They are able to travel and have children and still have a leisure lifestyle, but they've still made those decisions, maybe, to not become parents. What are your thoughts about that?
Like I said, you really have to make sure that when you have kids, it goes with your lifestyle. Because I will have to say, I had the best parents, hands down. My mother and my father were always there with me. Whenever my father would go out, he would take me with him. So, like, we would go out, hang out with my uncle, and I would be playing video games, or I'd be chilling with the children or whatever. But I was always with him. I always felt safe. When it comes to, like, my mother, she was, like, down. So, like, just seeing that I was always raised, like, your kid should have more than me. So can I provide more than what I have? I have a loving home. I was secure. I was safe. I was, like, safe with my immediate family. So can I provide that? Now I don't have a partner right now, but I would love for my child, like me, like, had a great relationship with her father. So I would love that for my child. Now I'm not saying, like, that's the end all be all. Like, I'm not gonna lie, girl. If it gets to like 50, I might just have to go to the clinic and get a little child. I'm not going to lie, but it'll be nice and it'll be great to find a spouse or somebody that you can depend on, somebody that will be a great father, a great nurturer with that child, because I am who I am because of the love and strength of my parents. So I know my child, like, doesn't even matter if we had money all the time. I had love. So I would love for my child to have that. Now, like I said, if it was like going up to like 50, I might have to pull a Janet. Might gotta pull a Janet and have a kid a little bit later. But you see, that child probably loved and is spoiled as hell having Janet B. Jackson as a mom and having a billionaire as a dad. Like I said, you gotta make sure you, like, take the time. And honestly, I'm enjoying my life now, just as me, single, no kids. It doesn't define me. The only time I really hear it is this other person, honestly. So, and I had no problem with it. If you want to brag about your husband or your child, I would gladly listen. But you gonna listen to me being happy without anything. Just me and my beautiful career. And I know you are a career woman as well. So I'm like, and honestly, I just want to know, like, do you think you would have gotten as far as you in your career if you had been married?
That is an interesting question. I think in terms of my professional career, I don't think that it would have made a difference. I think that if I would have gotten married, I would have had that support in my professional career. And I think my partner and I probably would have had a certain level of advancement just based on from a financial standpoint. But in terms of my career as a performer, working as an actor, working as a voice actor, working as a podcaster, and, hand modeling and things of that nature, I don't know that I've ever really been in a relationship that I could honestly say, like, really supports that. And even when I dated someone that was kind of in a like-minded field, like he was an animator at the time, there was almost like, he was an animator and I was working in voice work, and there was almost like this sort of like competitive nature that was there that I really didn't have a preference for. And I always thought of, like, being with a partner and having a relationship that, like, we're a team, like we move as one, so everything that we do kind of complements each other. But I would say in terms of the industry, because you're flying off to go to film festivals and you're going to red carpet premieres and you're going to networking events and meeting so many people, and then we work in an industry that is primarily male dominated. It's almost like when you have your partner, if your partner isn't a performer or they don't work behind the scenes, like they don't really have a clear understanding of what it's like for us to attend events like that in a professional way. I've definitely been in relationships where it's been pointed out to me, you know, certain type of attire that I wear there, or the amount of makeup that I wear there. And it's like, this is a professional space. We're going to represent ourselves as performers, like, and we're going to be introduced to people and meet people. And it's a part of our persona. It's a part of our job. So I have had instances where, you know, the partner who can't come because maybe he's, you know, left at home for this particular event, you know, might feel some type of way about like kind of not being included in that. And it's very strange because it's like, it's just a different field altogether. I definitely can say that that's a pressure that I have not appreciated. And I've often wondered, like, I see why, you know, performers date other performers and why, you know, celebrities date other celebrities is because you have a like-mindedness in the lifestyle that you live, and they understand like the things that you are responsible for and sort of, you know, a lot of the events that you have to be a part of. And I myself have actually seen that my partners haven't always like supported that aspect of my life, which is interesting because they support my professional career, but I wouldn't necessarily say that they support my entertainment endeavors as much as they do that. So for yourself, like in terms of being in, you know, a relationship with someone, have you ever experienced like a dichotomy between like maybe how they look at your profession in education or any of your other professions versus like how they see you in entertainment?
Yeah, definitely. I've definitely noticed the difference, and I think it goes with our career, where for us, like for example, when they have red carpet, to people who are not in the industry, they see it as, oh my gosh, you know, you're interviewing stars, or you're getting interviewed. It's exciting. For me, it's like a work party. That's how it feels. It's like, because I remember I had a premiere at a film festival for one of my short films, and I brought my cousin with me, and I know she was like, oh, like, I can see you like at work, and she's like, oh, like this is cool, but like she understood this was still work. Not everybody understands that. Like all the talking, you talk about your film. Sometimes films that you haven't even filmed like 2-3 years ago, you have to write down your notes, and you got to make sure you thank the right people, and you have to make sure you talk about like the process. This is still a job, and a lot of times you need to make sure you have a secure person, because a lot of jealousy could pop up, like how you mentioned with the animation, because our career, we are physically being shown either on the screen, either on a phone, or on the laptop, or in the apps, or in the big theater. We will pay to see that. So a lot of times that could be like, how did this person get it? And I'm so and so in a close proximity to her, and how come not me? And it could bring on some things, or even outside people could be like, oh, you're dating the star, like, oh, I wouldn't think she would date somebody like you. You know what I mean? It's like other people filling them up. Just like how we mentioned earlier, another episode about social media, like the comments gassing you up. So you really need to make sure that your partner is really secure. But I've had instances where I would remember if I'm dating somebody and they'd be like, and I talk about before I got into the industry. Yeah, I want to go into the industry. Oh, you want to get into the industry? And it's like that type of like, but I will never forget that, and I pick it up. But then years after working in the industry, and they be like, oh, I saw you on TV. You still blocked. You didn't want to support me when I was hustling. And that's the thing about people in the industry. You think because some few people have just like been walking around and been spotted by a scout, that's how it works. A lot of times it's years. You had I forgot the actor from Pose, the FX series. And he was saying that he was working for years, like almost like a decade or probably more. And he almost gave up before he got pulled. You know what I mean? It takes a long time. Sometimes it takes years. Sometimes it might take months. Sometimes, well, some people could take decades. You never know how long it's going to be. Okay, so that's the one thing where can your partner, can your relationship support that? Like, how is it like seeing somebody in your career but still struggling for majority of the relationship? Can you really sustain that? How about when you start dating somebody with on the top and then they fall? Like, that's another thing. So there's so many sides of this relationship in this industry. And honestly, I really don't know if it's best to date within the industry or outside of the industry. Like, I don't know about you, T. Like, I was like telling my friend, I was like, maybe I could date like a lawyer or something. Oh, what are you going to talk about? What are you going to talk about? There's a lot of things you can talk about. Just because they're a lawyer or a doctor doesn't mean they're far-fetched from a practice. Like, don't think of it as a mean, like a less than job than that. You know, I don't believe that. I think artists are the cutting edge of society. I really do. I feel like very prideful to say that I am in that case. So just like how somebody should definitely be prideful for whatever career that they choose, especially the amount of work and degrees. But honestly, with this career, I really don't know. Like, I really like, T, help me out. Like, which do you think it's better to date within the industry or outside of the industry? I know you kind of touched on that earlier, but like, you think people in the industry should date in or out?
You know, it's tough because I always used to think that it didn't matter, but as I've gone through life and dated people that don't have an affiliation to the industry, I feel like I would rather maybe explore being with somebody who already understands the lifestyle that we live, you know. And I want to be clear, it's not to say that there's tons of people who date performers and who date people that are, you know, involved in the industry, you know, in front of and behind the camera. But I just am speaking from just my own personal experience. I've always had to explain, you know, all of the things that I'm doing. And it's like never really felt like that space where like that person's really championing where, you know, where I'm going. And I think that as an artist, we sacrifice so much. Like, there's so much thrown on us last minute. Auditions come up last minute. We have very little time oftentimes to prepare for things. That it impacts our friendships, that impacts our family, that impacts our love life. And I feel like another person who's involved in the same career goals or activities that you have are going to better understand what that's like. I think it just takes less communication in that way, and also like maybe there's a greater level of understanding already for somebody that is also pursuing the same thing that you're pursuing. And there's also something to be said, like I know this couple that work in the industry, and the wife is like doing really well right now and the husband's doing pretty well, and it's like I can tell that like their relationship complements each other because they're both in the space where they're going out for parts, and you know, as if one is seen, the other one is seen. If they're going to red carpet events, you know, and they're bringing each other because they're both in the industry, right? It's like, I think it could only help. You know, I don't know that to be true. I haven't dated a lot of artists. I've dated a couple, but there's that creativity aspect. Like what it is to be a really creative person versus somebody that might be like a little bit more buttoned up or a little bit more, you know, traditional in that sense. And so I feel like another artist, another performer would probably be able to understand like that creativity that I feel like I just like naturally have. I always want to create something. It doesn't even really matter what that something is. And so that's the part that I question. And I know in this stage of my life, I'd be a lot more open to dating artists than I would have been when I was a lot younger. How about yourself? Like I know that you mentioned being single now and not having children yet, but do you see yourself like being in a relationship more so with somebody that kind of mirrors the lifestyle that you live? Or do you feel like, hey, it doesn't matter. Love is love. I'll find that wherever I find it.
I honestly don't know. Only because when I was younger, I was saying, oh, I'm probably going to date somebody in the industry. Now, knowing how things are run, I really don't know, because, yes, being with somebody in the industry, they understand everything you got to go through. But at the same time, it would be nice if I was to start a family with somebody being rich is funny, whose career is more stable. Because acting is it's a roller coaster. But if you have a spouse where you can rely on, that is everything. You know what I mean? I'm lucky I have my family. But it's also like if I were to have a spouse, that is something that I would honestly look at like, because God forbid, if, like how we had the strike, like if something goes down with Hollywood, like what can happen? And it happens with other careers as well, where sometimes you could just easily get fired just like that. Like, oh, well, I'm acting right now in a TV show. Like, I gotta, so while you go look for another job in another firm or whatever. So whatever I'm looking for in a partner, it would be nice where it would be secure. Now that I'm older and I understand, because you can love somebody, but if you are not financially secure, if you are not ready for all the changes that comes with it, with like entertainment, it can really break you. And I just realized as you get older, love is beautiful, but it's not enough. You need more within a successful relationship. You actually want people to both partners to work. And how are you working towards this game? So honestly, I really don't know. I mean, it'd be nice, get a little Yeager, John David Washington, real nice people. If you had like somebody who's already successful, like a boss who already had money, that's beautiful too. I already know in my head I can like really go for it with acting and have fun because I have a stable partner on my side. I feel like I could really fly. I'm gonna take more risks. I could really like, you know what? Like I'm good at home. Like da-da-da-da-da. But I'm also like, I'm not just saying like I'm good. Like I'm also like having conversation with my partner, make sure we're like tight. But like if we are both like two Janine and like we both hustling, like it's gonna be like it'll make. I'm not gonna lie, that would kind of make me fight harder too for the relationship, like fight like for the relationship as well as for my goals, because we're both fighting for it. So it really just depends on the person and the amount of fight they have. And this fight is not like a little. No. We going in. This is gonna be like round like 6, 7, 8. Javante Davis. I know Mike Tyson only lasts like he always knock people out in one round. But like the rounds, like Muhammad Ali, those type of, it's gonna take some long. Like I don't know, girl. Who you dated? Now I want to know the team. Were they like? Do we know them? Are they in like these little shows? Are they in
I definitely have, dated somebody that has the spotlight on them before. I will not name names, but
you're gonna tell me later.
Yeah, luckily these were during times when, social media wasn't what it is today, and information is not as public as it is currently. We'll leave that where it is. Those who know, you know. I mean, I'd be curious to know from our audience, do you think it matters? Do you think, people that may be working in entertainment, maybe working as, maybe a celebrity or an influencer or somebody that's, in the public limelight, do you think it matters if they partner with somebody that lives in that same space? Or could you see yourself being with somebody that is the complete opposite of yourself? Let us know. Have you ever dated a creative? Be sure to follow us on all social media. We are at Breaking Black Podcast on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. And also make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's very important to help support us, not just watching our videos, but actually hitting the subscriber button. So please make sure that you subscribe to us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Amazon Music, and Patreon. We will see you next time. Stay tuned.